So we said g of x is equal to x. So we took this x, our g of x, and what did we substitute it into? Negative 2x, which is what function? This whole thing is our f of g of x, right? But our f of x was a negative 2 times whatever this x is. And in this case, we're using g of x. So here it was easy because g of x just happened to be x. So nothing really changed. Let's look at the next one here. F of x is x minus 5, and g of x is 9x. Then we have this f of g of x is a 9x minus 5. So it does matter which order we do it in. When I do the first example, we can talk about what might happen. But why did we do it in this order? Why did we put a 9x here? Any ideas?
Maybe so that it wouldn't have looked like a multiplication problem. Having the 5x after it emphasizing it's minus 5, right?
So we're substituting into f of x. It means whatever we see here, whenever we do f of, replaces x. We substitute x for whatever we put here. So here, we're doing g of x. So this g of x replaced our x. And then in this last case, f of x is x squared. F of g of x is x plus 2, all squared. So what's g of x in that last? X plus 2. So we have this x plus 2, our g of x, and we plugged it in for this x. We substituted for this x. So now instead of x squared, we have x plus 2 squared, because g of x is x plus 2. So we take that x plus 2, put it in for x, and then I simplified it over here. But really the key is that we took that x plus 2, that whole expression, and substituted it for x. So this last one we're going to do as our first example, just to make it really clear. So again, the key point from today is that we can take a number and substitute it into a function. We can take a variable and substitute it into a function. We can also take a whole function and substitute it into a function. So everyone, if you haven't already started, write this in your notebooks and follow along with me as I solve this. That way you guys know how to solve the other problems that we're going to do today. So the question here is, what is f of g of x? We know f of x is x squared. F of g of x means we take that x in our f of x and we substitute in g of x, which is x plus 2. So now, instead of x squared, we have all of our g of x, that x plus 2 squared. me color code it. It's going to be the same thing, so you don't have to erase anything, but I think this will make it even clearer. So our input is what, Dietrich? What are we substituting into f of x? The x plus 2, which was what? What function is x plus 2? It's right up there. F of x is x plus 2. So this is x squared. Our x plus 2 is our g of x. Let's take it a step back.
Like the x squared is where you're gonna plug the g of x in. So that's becomes x plus 2 squared.
So keep all this on your papers. If I said to you guys, what's f of 5? What would you do, Kelly? If I said, what's f of 5? Exactly. You would take this 5, and you'd say, okay, substitute 5 for x squared. If I said, all right, what is f of smiley faces equal to, what would you do? You take our smiley faces and we would square it. It doesn't matter what this input is. All that matters is that we take it and we substitute it in for x. So again, it looks scary, but it's not. When we're looking for f of g of x, we have our x, we know what we want to substitute. That's our g of x. X plus 2 squared. So we're going to do 2 more examples as a class, just so that this is really clear, and then we're going to move into independent practice.
So that's the answer?
Yeah, I would accept this. If you get this answer and it's a multiple choice test and it doesn't look right, you might need to expand this. And to do that, you could use the box method. So you would have x, 2, x, and a positive 2, x squared, 2x, 2x, and a 4. You could add those up. X squared plus 2x plus 2x plus 4. Combine these. X squared plus 4x plus 4. So if you get this as your answer, and the choices are all something like that, then in your head, think, all right, I can probably expand that. I have squared. I know the box method, because Mr. Kane drills it into my head all the time. And then you can get something like that. So here, our f of x is 4x plus 3. Our g of x is x minus 5. So if we're calculating f of g of x, f of g of x, let me color code because I like colors. Tahira, what function are we substituting g of x into?
X minus 5.
So which function is x minus 5?
G.
So are we substituting g of x into g of x?
Yeah.
So which one are we substituting into?
F of X.
Exactly. G of x is our input, and we're substituting it into f of x, our green function here. Destiny, what do I substitute for x?
X minus 5.
And how do you know that?
Because you substitute G of X for F of X.
That's right. We're substituting g of x into f of x, which means wherever we see an x, we put a g of x. Our g of x is x minus 5, so as Destiny said, 4 times x minus 5 plus 3. Help me out, Jamisha. How do we simplify that? 4x minus 20. Where'd you get the 4x and the 20? That's right. Distribute. Plus 3. Yep. So 4x, a minus 20, and a plus 3 gives us a minus 17. That's our answer. All right, let's do one more together. Okay. Kara, we are looking for f of g of x. So what function are we substituting into? So if I told you I'm looking for f of 7, what function would you be substituting that 7 into? Right. So we're looking for f of g of x. So which function are we substituting into?
Fx, right?
Yep. It's just like a number. This time it's a function. Same exact concept. Our input is g of x, and we are substituting it into f of x. We are substituting it into f of x every time we see an x.
Plug in 2x.
Exactly.
And then 2x squared.
So we have 2 times an x, and that x is squared. So we substitute
2x squared.
right, 2x squared plus 8. Here, let me make this even clearer. So, Dietrich, do we do exponents or multiplication first? What's our order of operations? Exponents. So we have 2x raised to 2, the second power. The 4 is right. Remember, 2x squared is 2x times 2x. So you're right about the 4, So we have a 2 times a 2. What do we also have? Or we're doing 2x times 2x.
4x squared.
Right, 4x squared. So we have 2 x's multiplied together. So our 2x raised to the second power is 4x squared. Is that right? Did I make a mistake? I forgot the 2. We just simplified that. And what else do I need to add on the end there? Am I done? And what do I get, Daryl, when I simplify this?
8x squared plus 8x.
That's right. We have a 2 times a 4x squared. That's an 8x squared plus 8. Makes me happy. All right. So, I don't know what that means. Yeah. So, give me a thumbs up, so thumbs down. Thumbs up is, this makes total sense. I think I can solve anything that you can throw at me. And thumbs down, what are you talking about, Mr. Kane? You're being ridiculous.
I have like a question.
Yeah.
So, like with the 2x squared,
Yeah.
like f of x, or f of x, right? And so where the x is, and that's where you will replace g and
Mm-hmm. So this is a function, right? But it's exactly the same idea as when we substituted in a number or substituted in a variable. Every time we see an x, we put a g of x, which is just 2x in this case. So let's do the first problem off. I'll just make one. Let's say our f of x is x squared plus 5. And our g of x is 3x. So we're looking for f of g of x. Now, what's important to be very careful about is that when we have an exponent up here, we're not substituting in for x squared. We're substituting in for x. So f of g of x,
It wouldn't be x squared, what it would be, if it would be x squared.
so would it be 3x plus 5 parentheses squared?
so remember we are only substituting in for the x. That's all we do. So even if it helps, you can even think about this as x in parentheses squared plus 5. So we replace that x with our input, which is what?
Well,
Would that be 3x parentheses squared plus 5?
Because remember, f of x is x squared plus 5. Sometimes it helps me to draw parentheses around the x just to really, really drive the point home that it's on its own and this is what we're replacing. And we take that x and we replace it with what we're substituting, our g of x. G of x is 3x. Take that x and we substitute the 3x. So what doesn't make sense about that? Is anything unclear? I want to make sure it's as clear as possible before I just give you guys a worksheet. Yeah.
I think I did it, it's just like, I think all the X's are kind of, messing up my head. If there was like a different number for the f of x, I think it would make more sense if it was like z.
Like f of z.
Squared plus 5, and then you had 3x over there, you know, to plug in 3x to z, and then you, make it simple.
I agree.
Like, that's just for me, I don't know how to.
It would make it simpler. This is how it's going to look when you guys take your test. They're going to give you an f of x, they're going to give you a g of x, whatever the letter may be. This function is always going to be in terms of x when they give it to you. So I agree, like, it is tricky, and that's why I like strategies like, okay, let me put this side by side. So when we do f of 5, f of 5, squared plus 5. That simplifies to 25 plus 5, which is 30. F of g of x is the same as saying f of 3x. So we're replacing x with 3x. That's all we're doing, substituting it out. 3x squared plus 5. So just like when we have a number, you write it in parentheses to show that we're substituting, and then simplify. So think about this exactly the same way as if it's a number. F of g of x is f of 3x. 3x is g of x. We replace this x with the 3x, our g of x. We can square that. So, thumbs up, we do one more as a class. Thumbs down, we don't. Where are we at? I want to see everybody do it. Are you awake, Destiny? Not gonna move on until everyone gives me a thumbs up or a thumbs down, so you can stand here. Okay. So, I'm going to hand out this worksheet, and I will work with you as much as I can individually as you do it. The first two questions, just like last time, are outlining the steps that you need to take. So the first two are a fill-in-the-blank question. And I've already done most of the substituting for you. You just need to write either what's being substituted or the rest of what's being substituted. And problems 3, 4, and 5 are, you get to do most of the work. So we're gonna spend 15 minutes on this, and then we'll move on. So g of x is what you're substituting for now. So you take this x and you replace it with this x. So f of g of x is this x. You replace it with g of x. So what's g of x? So you have something like what lets you know what is happening with that? Or what is this test? When you distribute that by? Is it being multiplied? Let's subtract. So if it's right next to the parentheses, what's the like contrast these. Order of operations is what you want.
Square roots and stuff. It's like,
Start with that.
it's horrible.
Destiny, what's the most representation?
Super fast.
I have a question.
Number 3? So we're starting with that, then 2x row before everything.
I got 15. So
It's not an x, I'm gonna bring it straight in. So I have that parentheses.
I just want to close my
What you're gonna put in, should not write these two x squared plus 1 minus
So
that.
these are, you start off with in the parentheses, you put 2x squared plus 4, that's okay?
So now we have
Now, there's 9.
4x plus 5.
There's not a symbol in there,
Now,
right?
what is
It's not
the
next to
answer?
it,
The box.
right?
And you're
So
done.
you don't do anything to it.
Does that help?
You just keep those 2x
Yeah,
squared
but
plus
I
4.
don't need to.
What would order of operations is?
So, our first one, that's a bet.
So like, the only way you use the exponent
And then
is
you
outside
multiply
of
everything
Here's my
by
x, I'm bringing
because
everything
it would
else down.
make you have to
So then
square
minus
stuff on the
5.
inside.
What are we
But
gonna plug in?
since it's
For
2,
x.
the 2 is not squared, it's x. So,
But it's not
because
just
we don't know
2x,
what
it's
x
that
is, you just
whole
know you use 2x squared.
That
So
whole
this
thing
x,
is g of x.
you have to
That's
write
the
it
whole
here.
equation. It's like a
Understand
brand
the
equation
parentheses.
into your
Then you can
equation.
distribute.
So I almost have
It's
to
like
extend
2
it a little
times
bit.
4.
So it's
8
2
instead of 2 is
times
right next
You
to
just
the
forgot
4,
what plus
right
is
next to what's in parentheses. When you have addition or
So
subtraction,
then you get 2x squared plus
you can't just
4.
multiply that 5. Because
So this
you can multiply that 5 and you can
this
go,
here.
I can do 5 times negative 1.
Miss Hall, will you
negative
take her to get some tissue?
It's
Yeah.
subtraction.
Is that a little bit better? Yeah.
So what would you do to simplify?
How are you doing?
5 gives you positive negatives. Negative. 2x squared is a stay or is a change?
So start with
Stay.
this.
Right.
Yeah.
Left mine.
Is it? 2x squared minus negative 1. Or is it minus 1 or plus negative 1?
Everything else is
Same,
coming
same.
straight
Okay.
down. So I have that parentheses there.
So you want this next one? What I might do if I were you is like, how like this is set up,
What
how
should
the
I
x
put
got
in?
taken out, you put a big old set of parentheses. This is after g of x again, so over here, when there's an x, you know, the x is gonna be like parentheses, you know, put it at this place.
What's the way you put that in between that?
Right.
That like, I was on the side from the eight.
Exactly.
How did I get, how'd you get the 6?
So I got enough line numbers. You can have like x squared, x, and then like the box, right?
Yeah.
So, alright, so then, what I might do is go ahead and put in, go ahead and like leave it like this. You just like change out x, put in 4x, right? And then do the box where you have 4x and 5, and 4x and 5 again. Because this is, right, and so x is gonna turn into this, 4x, right? And so instead, let's keep your square on the outside, and let's just on the inside have 4x plus 5. And this will be an easier way to do it than what you're about to do. And then now, think back to the last time y'all did stuff like this, you made your little box with the 4 parts.
Next to the parentheses, you can just drop it. You just get rid of it.
Just since it's squared, you know you got 4x plus 5 on the top, and you got the same thing on the side.
Would you just put 4? Is that better?
And then you're just bang that out like you've been doing.
Did you need help around here?
So, f of g of x. What are you substituting for x?
It's probably just
That's where it was.
I'll show you.
I don't see it.
Getting with that, I think we had is good.
It's two.
Yeah, so I think it's,
And then.
since it doesn't end up x, I think it's just
2x.
because there's nowhere for me but in all of that.